Hey everyone, Team Macatron back again. The premise of this video is essentially how do I start a business, right? So I've had people messaging me and talk to me and go, Roddo, you've sort of sold me on this idea of I need a business or something to create wealth for my future family or my current family. So this preface is how do I go from idea to make a few $1,000s? Now, I'm no guru, right? I'm not some millionaire, but this part of the business I've learned through a lot and a lot of mistakes. So I can sort of give a good understanding of how to start that and validate the product and make a bit of money. But beyond that, I'm not your guy, okay? So I'll get that experience later on, don't get me wrong. But at the moment, I'm just within the idea, validate, go to market and make a few grand. That's where I'm sitting at the moment. So these are the 4 steps that worked for me from going from idea to a few $1,000s, which essentially is you've validated it, because those few $1,000s means that it's not just mum and dad who've bought it, right? Some other people or cold customers have bought this product, meaning that, okay, it must be of some value, right? So I've managed to do that. So the 4 steps that work for me to create a business to go from these points are: one, you got product, so know your product, understand your ICP, and then niche your product further. Now, I'm going to go into depth into these afterwards, but give into the 4 steps first. 2, validate the product, right? So, social media for B2C is great. B2C just meaning business to consumer, which is what I did when selling a product. I was selling it to consumer. So yeah, you begin to target your ICP through your validation, and then you can niche that ICP better. But we'll get into that. 3, quality and value of the product needs to meet the ICP standard. So make sure that what you're creating, the product, is going to meet that ICP standard. And then attention. Start this right away. You need to know how to create attention. Build an audience. So then when you've got this product, you want to be giving then on your posts need to be 70% value, then 30% product, and learning these different strategies to create attention, which will drive traffic in the funnel. Toff, moth, boff, how to pull them in. We'll get into this soon. So the reason for this is I didn't really get taught how to do this. No one really said, hey Tom, this is how it's going to be laid out, this is how you can do it. So I had to just learn this myself. So I've failed a lot of times trying to find out how to do this step and waste a lot of money. So my hope is that at least one person can save, 6 months, a year, or a lot of dollars. So if they just follow a few of these steps, maybe it might help them out. I'm not saying it will, but for 2026, this has worked for me. So I hope it can work for you. Okay, we're going to get into it. So step 1, we spoke about, which was the product, ICP, then niche the product. So ICP, what does that mean? I've been throwing it around. Ideal customer profile. So essentially, who is your customer? You need to know who your customer is so well, because knowing who the customer is gives you the ability to sell a lot easier, right? Seth Godin summed it up perfectly. If you're selling to everyone, you're selling to no one, right? So for your ICP, you want to understand these things. You want to know the age, the gender, the lifestyle, the interests, the income level, the problems and desires of that core person or segment of people that you want to be channeling and really going hard at. So you need to do that. So you need to define your ICP as best as you can. And if you don't define your ICP, your messaging from your social media will be vague. The offer will feel way too generic, and you'll get low quality customers. You don't want low quality customers, right? Understanding and defining your ICP means marketing is more attractive to your specific customer segment. Sales become easier, and you can actually charge more because you're creating something of value for these specific people, so you can charge more. Whereas outside of your ICP, they may not see the value of the product, so you'd actually have to charge less. So you need to be able to define that. It's like, how do I do this practically, right? So how I've done it practically in the past to be able to nail this ideal customer profile for a product is, who are the main players in the industry that you're going to go into, right? So we're going to use the idea of a drink bottle, right? So for the ICP for a drink bottle, you would go to who's the big players in the drink bottle game at the moment. You would look at their social media, you would look at their followers. Okay, who are their followers? You start to get an understanding of who their followers were. You would then go into the comments, who's interacting with their content, and you'd be able to get a really good understanding there. Okay, who's interacting with it? What the demographic of them are, age, gender, like hard to understand income there, but you probably get to see their desires. You get to see what their lifestyle and what they like is. You get a lot from their Instagram. Then you can go into the Google reviews, right? Who's reviewing that product of that company, or just the company in general, who's the drink bottle company. And then you can see, who's interacting with it well, who's giving it the 5 stars. You can start to see the profile of those people. Another one is TikTok. You just simply search drink bottles on TikTok, or if you get a bit nicher, maybe metal drink bottles, you're going to just get a whole list of creators who are creating about it, who their audience is. And from this, you're starting to really develop, okay, who is my ideal customer profile that wants to buy this drink bottle? Who are they? What are they doing? You get to really figure that out. And then probably the best one is just to speak to people, right? Speak to people about your product, preferably people who aren't of your family, because they will give you misleading ideas. They'll either hype you up. They'll probably hype you up, which you don't necessarily want that, right? You want to get the truth. So go and speak to people who are, you're on the bus, right? You just speak to the guy next to you. It's simple. It's going to take a bit of guts, but that's it. And you'll get to understand your customer profile. If he's like a 50-year-old guy and you say to him, would you spend on this? And he goes, no. Well, sweet. You're starting to understand who he is, but then obviously ask some further questions other than age, but you'll get to understand it just probably by a few conversations. So we've talked about know your ICP. There's a couple of real just low-hanging fruit ways to start to understand it. We can get into a lot more depth about ICP. I love their whole ideal customer profile, and I've done a lot of looking into it, created Excel spreadsheets and scored the different groups and how to scoring. Actually, I probably could put one of those Excel spreadsheets in the link below if people want that. So as I said before, product, ICP, niche the product. So as our example of the drink bottle, right? You start with the drink bottle, and then you would speak to your ICP, understand your ICP. Then you would realize, okay, what sort of drink bottle does my ICP actually want? So it gives you the ability to niche your product further, giving it more value, right? So you've got your drink bottle, then you've created this ICP, you understand them well, and you understand actually they want a middle drink bottle that is beyond 1.5 litre, that can hold 1.5 litres or more, and it's got a delivery mechanism of a straw, and it needs to have a handle, right? Like, then you can get very niche, and that way, as I said, you can charge more, you can be more direct with your marketing. So that's step one. Product, ICP, then niche the product. Create it more specific. Okay, step two, validate. You want to then validate your idea that you then have created based on the previous step. So you need to validate it. So the best way I've found to validate a product currently it's social media. So you want to create a landing page or a wait list for the product via your Instagram. So you're going to be starting to build an audience. So you've got to have that audience. Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this. Maybe you could just do it via an ad too. You could do ad spend to create traction to this. So you have the product. You then create a wait list for the product. You then promote the product on Meta using Meta ads. I would probably use Meta ads. That's what I've used, and it seems to work. And you'll drive people to the funnel of this wait list or the pre-order. I've used wait lists, and they will sign up. If they think the product's right, they'll sign up, and that's a validation that your product actually is of value to your ICP, because hopefully what you've done by understanding your ICP is then you'll be able to directly market or add to them. So that's what you want. And for me, I've found that a good conversion rate for a product is 10% and above. So you want to be able to be converting people 10% and above when it comes to like your ad spend. I'm not in the weeds as much around this, but it seemed to have worked for me when I you got to put a decent amount. I put like 500 to 1,000 for me personally, but it can vary, right? If you've got your ICP correct, you can probably do well as long as you know who your audience is. This one I'm not the best at this stage, but I know the process. But the actual figures and facts are a wee bit vague. But that's how essentially I've done it. I've gone waitlist, which funnels them. So I've gone ad, funnel them to the waitlist, and then hope they sign up. Conversion above 10% means tick, it's been validated. Anything above 10%, like if you can 20%, it's like bang, green light, right? So yeah, and also that 10% needs to be not just people you know, right? They need to be these like cold sales or cold conversions essentially, right? Because it's going to skew it, right? If you just post it on your Instagram and then 50 of your mates sign up, and suddenly that's the conversion rate's flipping 40%, and it's skewed, right? So make sure these are cold conversions. So stick to ads and not trying to drive your mates through it. It's maybe as dopamine inducing as it is to see lots of waitlist people. It's very skewed data if they are just of friends of that nature. So we've gone one, we've gone product, ICP, niche the product. 2, validate the product. 3, quality product. So you want to create a product that is of value and of quality to your ICP, to that group that you're trying to make it for, right? So we'll go back to our drink bottle. That drink bottle needs to stand up to what they want and are expecting, okay? So you can't make it fall short. Otherwise, your business is going to flop, right? So a good way I've found to understand quality and what my quality should look like when sampling goods from manufacturers is when you've gone to that ICP and you've looked at the social media pages of the competitors and you understand that group, etc. You then actually just go into a shop and just feel, understand, and know their product and like the quality of it, materials, etc. So then you can actually see what you're stacking up against. Because essentially, when they get the product, they're just going to compare it, right? They're going to compare, okay, this is a bottle I have. Now this is the one I've got. It's the comparison straight away, right? I mean, everyone does that, right? Like when you buy clothes, anything, they're just going to compare it to that product they bought of another brand or previous, right? Because it's a benchmark. Great example. R.M. Williams boots, right? That's like they set the bar on the quality, right? And if you've got a pair of R.M. Williams boots, and then you went and bought another pair that weren't as good quality, straight away your mind's going to be, oh, these aren't as good as RM boots, right? So knowing the benchmark is a great way to know the value and the quality that you need to be at. So that's a great way to know the quality of the product that you need to be producing. So in your sampling, take your sample into the shop of your competitor to then be able to compare, like bang, right there in front of you, okay? So quality, make sure you deliver on the quality, otherwise you're just going to lose the customer, and the LTV, lifetime value of that customer, is just going to be that one sale and that's it, right? So quality. Fourth is attention, right? So the fourth step is you need to be able to create attention on social media, especially for B2C, business to consumer, when selling a product, especially e-commerce, right? So you want to be able to create attention. So this is where the idea of this TOF, MOF, and BOF. Top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. This funnel system, you need to, after this video, go and learn about this funnel system, because this is what essentially drives your sales engine, right? So you need to know how to funnel people and get them in to your Shopify to then put their card in, right? And that's not going to happen by just one post, right? Or one type of post. So like I've seen a lot of companies, what they'll do is their TOF or top of funnel is, actually I've got this pulled up, I've got this written right here. Yeah, okay, so top of funnel is essentially like they're creating viral reels, right? They want to create this virality which brings people into the awareness of their brand. So virality. How do I create this virality? That's what they're doing that, and a lot of that is based off trends. They're looking at trends on reels, music, whatever that's trending. Yeah, I mean, I like to be a bit more creative and actually do your own thing, create your own virality, because then it's signature you. But you see what I mean, right? Like, just try and create virality, which is your top of funnel. So that's like your initial, I'm here, like your entrance into the market is that top of funnel. So, and then you've got your MOF, which is middle of funnel. So this is where you want to convert viewers to followers. This is done through storytelling, frameworks, and breakdowns, right? So this is where you want to give the customer value, okay? Give them value. So we've got top of funnel, which is more of a virality. Then when you've got middle of funnel, which is converting viewers to followers, which is storytelling, frameworks, and breakdowns, which is value. You want to give them value. Example of this is, I mean, essentially this video you've clicked on is a MOF. It's a middle of funnel. Not that I'm selling a product or anything. I'm just giving game. But that is an example of a MOF. Is this here is me storytelling, breakdown, and frameworks, right? So this would be an example of middle of funnel. Give them value. Middle of funnel, give them value. BOF, bottom of funnel. This is all about the product, how it works, looks, features, exactly. Just product is your bottom of funnel. So essentially, what you're hoping is that they've gone through the funnel system, which is the top of funnel, middle of funnel, top of funnel virality. They've seen it, then they've come in, they've converted a viewer into a follower through the value you've given them, and then at the bottom of the funnel, all about the product. And hopefully they've gone down, and the trust has been created as they've come down. And when that trust has been created, then they can proceed through to the ultimate, Shopify checkout, right? So I could go into a lot more of the weeds of the TOF, MOF, and BOF, but this is just a brief understanding and a few ideas. And as I said, these are just the ideas that got to me a few $1,000s. Maybe the reason I'm at that point is only because I actually don't understand this funnel enough, which I don't think I do. But look into that TOF, MOF, BOF. Even just knowing what that actually is will be a great start. Okay, and yes, the next bit, sort of a rule of thumb. A rule of thumb that I have used is going off that TOF, MOF, BOF, but like sort of another side of it is with your posting, like you want to be more towards the value side than the product side. So a lot of people, they sort of skew towards one side. Like I see a lot of e-com brands and product-based selling brands, they post all product. It's just all product, which essentially is that bottom of the funnel, right? They're just all of it, which is like, it's not creating that great funnel, right? You've just got that bottom of funnel. It's just all product, which is, it hasn't worked for me, just posting all product. So I normally have it a greater majority being like value. So for me in the past, I've done like 70% value, 30% product, and that's worked better for me. So having more value is probably a good rule of thumb on your social medias when driving traffic towards your Shopify. There's an idea that this guy, what's the guy's name? Let me shout him out. Marshall Crew is his name. And he talked about, like with the content, people should either love it or hate it. And that's a great way to create like a cult-like following and move them down the funnel super quick, right? Love or hate your content, right? And the best way I could think about it is like a sports team, right? Like I'm a fan of South Sydney Rabbitohs rugby league, right? But some people hate the South Sydney Rabbitohs rugby league, but that's perfect because that's what builds the cult-like following for them. It's hard to be a cult-like follower of something if someone doesn't hate it, if that makes sense. So your content almost needs to be polarizing enough where a lot of people hate it, which means actually the group that love it will really love it, which means you've really got a follower there, and their LTV, lifetime value, is going to be really high, which is great. But you don't want to be too polarizing where you're pushing everyone out, but you get what I'm saying, right? You don't want to be on the fence and grey, because then people aren't going to be like cult-like followers of just something that's like just on the fence, murky, doesn't really know their lane. You want to really know your lane, know your content, and really drive it to be polarizing to that group. And if someone who's not in your ICP sees it, like they're just like it's not really for them, and they'll just move on, which is great. You don't necessarily want that sort of customer. You want that cult-like following customer. Yeah, that's been the 4 steps. It's been a bit of a ramble. Hopefully I can sort of comes out in the wash once I edit it. It sort of filters through all right. But just going through those 4 steps again, 4 steps that have got me, my business, from my e-com product business, from idea to a few $1,000s, being 4 steps. 1, product, define your ICP, and then niche the product further. 2, validate the product, and then 3, ensure the quality and value of the product meets the ICP standard, and then 4, attention. So with that, I hope you've gained some sort of value, and you can go out and give it a crack. My next video is going to be, I'm going to show you how I have actually started the business. So understanding like, okay, limited liabilities company, how to do a trademark, how to set up a trademark, and then also like shares when you're setting up the company. Like, how many shares do I create? Like, director, shareholders, what do I do? If I've got multiple brands, how do I create a holdings company for, I'm going to do that all in the next video. So that's going to be like your real bare bones stuff, a lot of IP. So hopefully that will be of some value too, but that'll be in the next one. Did someone say, is that a spear gun? Great question. Heck yeah, it is, boy. Okay, sweet. Well, that's me. I'm off to have dinner. But if you've got any questions, fire them through in the comments or just message me and I will answer them. And if people do want that ICP spreadsheet, let me know.